underwear. It's underwear.
It is.
Then one
party to succeed, Santa came to say.
Well, I'm Ben Smith.
I'm Aaron Smith. In my voice, I have a little laryngitis, so he's going to be doing most of the talking.
Gotcha.
So we live here in Muncie, Indiana. Both originally not from here. Aaron's from Niles, Michigan. I'm from Northern Indiana, Columbia City. Been here 34 years. I'm a CPA. I have a firm here in town that I'm the CEO of, and Aaron is a teacher and mostly substitute teacher at this time. But we're both big Bearcat supporters, and follow the basketball programs. I do the PA for boys and girls, and Aaron does the clock for both. So we're pretty involved in that.
Yeah, awesome. So we're just gonna go ahead and just jump in right off the bat. I just want you guys to kind of talk about the story of everything that occurred, and what your guys' connection with suicide prevention is.
Sure. So Dylan, our son, Dylan Stafford, Aaron's son, my stepson, was a 2020 graduate of Muncie Central. He was an outstanding student, 4.8, 4.9 GPA, was an outstanding basketball player, team captain for 2 years, earned a nearly full ride scholarship to play college basketball at Spring Arbor University, the then defending NAIA national champions. He was their #1 recruit. He lived and breathed basketball every day, all day. From about 6th grade on, when he was told he was going to be too small and too slow and never be able to be a Bearcat, he wanted to prove that wrong. And so he worked his tail off. He was immersed in that, and that was his pretty much his existence. He was a good student, was not ever a troublemaker, and he was a kid who was really, we didn't know until after he passed away the extent of how revered he was, if you will. He was well known as a kid who supported other people. He was very supportive of anybody. He always had a smile for somebody if they were having a difficult time. He was in the Best Buddies program where he helped kids who were developmentally or disabled in some way, and he just he loved that, and they loved him. He was well liked by his teachers, by his classmates, and certainly by the Bearcat fans, who loved how hard he played and how unselfish he was on the court. And he really was an unselfish player and an unselfish person. And certainly, in the back of my mind, I always think there was so much focus by him on others that he could not and was not able to really receive the love that others gave him. And maybe he, obviously we don't know, but maybe he felt, for lack of a better word, unworthy of that, or what have you. So certainly, there were a lot of circumstances in that led up to him ultimately taking his own life on March 27th of 2021. And, we'll never know for sure all the reasons why. There were obviously complex reasons, and since it's happened, we've learned and learned a little bit more about suicide and why, where, and how. But nobody will ever truly understand why.
It was
And
a shock to the entire community.
Yeah.
I mean, that just was not something anybody expected. And, so that I think made it really hard for everybody. And,
he continued to work on his game, continued to work out, continued to Zoom meeting with his future college teammates, and then made the decision last minute that he didn't want to leave Muncie and leave family and leave friends and go to Michigan and play ball where, I don't know whether, I don't know, I don't think burnout's the right word, but certainly he was at a point where he was evidently tired of playing ball. So he elected to take a year off, and was going to enroll in Ball State, was actually admitted to the Miller College of Business, was going to go to Ball State in the fall of 2021, and never made it that far. And, to this day, we'll never understand why, because he was so loved by so many. But nevertheless, we've had to move on and take care of our other 5 kids, and there's certainly no blame to go around with his friends, but our family has never been gun families. We've never never had those, we're never hunters or what have you. And Dylan was doing some DoorDash stuff, and he managed to purchase a gun from Rural King of all places, without permit required. It was just a shotgun. And his friend said, well, you buying that for oil protection? Well, nobody buys that kind of a gun for protection in their car when they're door dashing. And so certainly those friends that knew about it, we didn't find out that he'd even bought it until he'd already left town in his car on a Friday night and went missing at that point, and drove until he didn't want to drive anymore into Southwest Tennessee, south of Nashville, and he took his own life. And so, it was 2 or 3 days before we really, knew what had happened. But, I know teenage kids, young kids, they don't want to get somebody in trouble, right? So they didn't want to tell on him, if you will.
He had even told them, and we found this out after, that they asked him, apparently, when they found out that he had left, did you take the gun? And he said no, and don't tell my mom about it. So, he was a smart kid. He knew how to, kind of take them off of that trail. So we, everybody has grieved tremendously for that, and that's just their kids, there's no blame at all.
What does spreading awareness look like for you, like on a day-to-day basis, and then also just kind of in a general sense?
Sure. It's kind of funny. I liken it. It's kind of strange to sound, but I liken it to, you get a new car and you buy a Volkswagen Beetle, and then all of a sudden you start seeing Beetles all over the road, right? So now that this has happened, you start to notice things, right? The message that we try to send out to anybody is it's okay to not be okay, right? It's okay. There's no stigma if you have the flu or something, but mental health, there's a stigma. And, I appreciate what the NFL's doing right now, and Jim Irsay from the Colts, there's a commercial going on around, stop the stigma, or, end the stigma. And it's true. You have to be able to understand that it's okay to not be okay and ask for help. It's no different than any other ailment you have. So learning to reach out, and if you just reach out to somebody who you think or might not be feeling, and open the conversation. I mean, here I was, 2 days after he passed away, calling people. How do I get the word out? How can I do something? I called my friend Trent Dowling, who's Community Foundation. I said, Trent, I want to do something. How do I do it? And that's where it started. So, you just have to look for clues, and just care about about your classmates, your teammates, your friends. I mean, if you're close enough to them, that they may not be, 100%. And you got to open up that dialogue and try to talk to them about going to a counselor or going to an adult, or even just opening up and talking about it.
We need to have more of the suicide awareness hotline. That way you can feel comfortable reaching out to a number, somebody you don't know, but somebody that is trained to be able to help you get through, work through some of those feelings, and to put a plan into place to save yourself, because everybody has a purpose.
And for those that see this message, that are watching, that are feeling, mentally compromised or down on themselves or whatever, it's okay. It's okay to not be okay. It's okay to ask for help. It's no different than, like I said, any other ailment. You go to your doctor if you break a bone or have the flu. So go see a professional that can help you work through these things, because every person is worth it. Every human being should live a full, long life. And to see somebody lose their life at a young age in an accident, those things happen, but to lose somebody by them taking their own life, shouldn't have to happen. There should be help. It's a matter of just, you people watch all the time, right? When you're out, some people sit around and people watch and they make fun of other people that go by, for the way they're dressed or what have you. I think our perspective is a little different.
We imagined maybe Dylan stopped
at a gas station or a
and
deal.
did he look distraught, and could someone have said something?
Yeah. So on a day-to-day basis, it's just a little bit more of an awareness that you don't think about it, but if it's now embedded in your mind, to just be aware. It's hard sometimes. Aaron, will elbow me in the car sometimes because I'll, be in a hurry to get somewhere and somebody's driving slow and taking a corner slow, but you just don't know what that other person's going through. So you have to be more empathetic to your surroundings and to other people, because you just don't know what they're going through. And if you can have that awareness and see somebody who's having a little bit more difficulty and ask the question, you might save a life.
And I just want to add too that it's ironic in a way. My dad raised me with those beliefs, and I obviously raised my children with those beliefs. And Dylan, he was truly just very unique. He was a very unselfish child, even as a 7th grader, after having won MVP for Ice League that we had here in town. And he talked about how he just wanted to be a team player and share the ball, because if he shared the ball and his teammates scored, then that made them happy. And he knew that that would make the team as a whole more successful. He marched in the George Floyd March. They did a little yearbook excerpt for him and the following year after he had graduated. And one of the students said, Dylan would give you the shirt off his back, and he would. And, we had another team, sorry, but his teammates, when he came over to visit us after he had passed, this kid, he played as a freshman, but then he didn't play the next 2 years. But senior year, he wanted to try out. And Dylan, he told us that Dylan made him, this kid didn't get into very many games. But Dylan, during tryouts, he told me that Dylan was always saying, "Hey, coach, did you see that? Did you see, so-and-so do that?" Like, he really wanted them to notice. And he said, his words were that I wasn't that good of a player, but Dylan made me feel like an all-star. And that's really how Dylan lived.
So I guess to wrap this up, do you have any advice for people noticing someone struggling, any closing remarks, that kind of thing? Just, some final statements you would like to make.
Well, I think it comes down to just being empathetic and a caring human being. You never know what somebody's going through. You just don't. You don't know financially if they're struggling. You don't know if they've got family issues, if they've got family members with health issues. You just don't know. And so it's a matter of just being empathetic and caring about your fellow man, woman, whatever. And regardless of your situation, if there's an opportunity to just reach out and say something kind, you never know how far that can go. We decided to start first a donor advised fund at the Muncie Delaware County Community Foundation. A longtime client and friend of mine started it with a substantial seed amount of money, and it's grown since then. So the donor advised funds allows us to put some money towards programming at school, different things to try to help. The suicide awareness piece, I've spoken at a couple of other functions regarding this. One in particular, Meridian Services put on a year ago with a gentleman who survived jumping off the Golden Gate Bridge and has been a speaker now for several years and written a few books. And we were able to talk to him personally, and from that side of it's certainly interesting and I don't want to say frightening, but certainly eye-opening for us to learn from somebody who survived, to know that certainly there was so much pain there that nobody else can understand.
Right.
So we've done that, and then coupled with that same fund is a scholarship fund, and we've given now 2 years in a row a $2,200 scholarship in his name. This year will be a $2,500 scholarship in his name to a deserving Muncie Central student, preferably athlete, but not required.
Right.
And it's a scholarship fund that also helps kids that aren't necessarily as gifted academically. It only requires a 2.5 GPA to apply. So certainly there are other attributes that are part of it. We require an essay that's written on what it means to be a Bearcat, and how you live your life, and we before me, and so we've got these bracelets that we have here. I don't know if you can see them.
I
You may have
wear
one.
I wear this one
Right?
almost every single day. I have this one.
Yep.
And then on my keys, actually, I have
Oh, you have the keychain? You have the new
I
one?
do. I went and met Riley, I think.
Sure.
Yeah, so I have the keychain on my keys.
Yeah, so that was started actually by some friends of ours at Knights of Columbus here in Muncie that friend called and said, hey, we'd like to do this for you. So we handed them out originally at his life celebration, which, his celebration of life was in May of 2021 at the Muncie Central Fieldhouse. And it was well attended. And ultimately our goal when we started the fund and the scholarship was to have his We Before Me legacy live on, to help others. But ultimately, if we can save one life by getting the message out that it's okay to not be okay, to ask for help, then if we save one life, then certainly it's worth any effort.